Ekapata Raja Kapotasana, also known as pigeon pose. Let's use all the props to help us get into the deep external rotation of the leg. Our first option is to use the bolster on the thigh. This is to help with the extension of the quadricep and hip flexors. Move the foot to the opposite side of your mat in a straight line, lowering down the knee opposite the ankle. You can work your way into this by lifting and lowering the leg to find the external rotation of the leg without putting too much pressure on the front. A block can help lift out of the space, but the additional lift from the bolster on the back leg may change the intensity in the hip flexor. You can choose to move your hands multiple different locations or add in some strengthening by flexing at the hips and lifting back up, feeling the motion within the externally rotated leg as well as the strength in the hip flexor. You can also choose to lift and lay down the front shin, feeling the rotation in the hip. Using the blocks can also create even more space to practice putting the knee down opposite the ankle, almost as though you're feeling internal rotation and external rotation of the thigh, but really working into the deep glute medial, always keeping the back thigh propped on the bolster to lift up and out of the psoas, quads, and hip flexors on the back extended leg. To go deeper into the rotation of the hip, moving the torso forward and back, easing gently into the hip socket can help build strength and mobility. Another option is from plank position to use the leg moving across the body underneath to develop more strength. You can stay lifted on your toes, placing the shin down parallel, and work on a little bit of upper body strength while still teasing your way into the hips. Every time the torso moves down, the flexion in the hip is challenged a little bit more. You can also, with the back knee down, lift the heel towards the buns to feel the contraction of the quadricep. In this position with the shin parallel to the top of your mat, you can also work on lifting up and down the entire pelvis using the blocks. You'll also be getting a great tricep workout by pushing up and down, teasing your way into the hip socket over time. It's not about the depth, it's about the range of motion. Another option is to use the bolster on the shin, therefore working your way by moving the pelvis rather than the knee and the ankle. As you let the back knee down towards the ground, the pelvis moves down closer to the same level as the knee. Similarly, you can add in the push-ups of the upper body, still finding some micro movements in the hip while the pelvis is moving down lower. When you find more space, you can then practice staying in some stillness to allow the pelvis to move down through the empty space while keeping the shin nicely cushioned on the bolster. This takes time. Be patient and allow for the movement to happen on its own as you breathe through the position. You can keep the chest lifted by playing gentle pressure on the knee and lifting the chest up and out of the supported pigeon. You can lift back to plank and then practice the strength that it takes to move the leg in external rotation and across the body, building strength, until you can do so without the bolster, letting the leg move down to your mat, keeping the shin and the toes touching the blocks as another metric of creating the shape while building the range of motion in the hip. Each of these exercises helps develop a healthy hip joint. Pick one that feels right for you to practice.